studios work because we've changed a lot in the 25 years. Not necessarily my sensibility, but India changed a lot. I think about back to 1987. When we started the store, I started the studio in 95. And I also thought that, because we had learned so much about construction, we could do things like structured draping today that we didn't have the means to do then. At that time, women and men draped fabric truly on themselves. Today, we structure it. We couldn't even make a beautiful jacket. It didn't exist in a thing. When the NIF school started, we could hire trained designers. I myself went to study. So we thought of it as a documentation. And it was amazing, then of course the pandemic came. And when I started to look at the archive and everything, we started doing this with Mappin, and then for certain reasons, Rowley Books was our final publisher. And I started looking at what we had done long before we've forgotten, because once you're running a business and designing, you're just on the treadmill. So I was like, wow. And the next thing that became evident is that everyone thinks of Indian fashion as color, embroidery, weddings. That's a minuscule part of it. It just gets all the attention because even Bollywood puts everybody in Western clothes, but suddenly the wedding is like Jodha Akbar, besides the costume films. And that's not Indian fashion. It's a small part of Indian fashion. So I think it was to document our story as a studio. This is not about me. It says in the book. It's not a book to promote myself as a human being or individual. It's about the craft of India and why the journey to India model. Because we were brought up in this very anglicized Western way in South Bombay. We went to Jesuit schools. In Doon school, you wore woolen stockings in the summer. Why? Because they wore that in Golden State. But there it was 2 degrees, here it was 35 degrees. Can you imagine what the damn dome smelled like? It was retarded. But we weren't adapting back to who we needed to be as Indians. We were still stuck in that post-colonial case. And through fashion, I went to parts of India that I would have never gone. Someone told me I was going to the Kumbh Mela at Shaw. I was going to a discotheque in New York. And I started working in villages, I started working in Dutch, I took that Vishnu book, and I found this world of craft and magic. And I educated myself through this process about one part of our tradition, which is the textile tradition. Because we weren't exposed to it. It was not, certainly as guys we were. So that's why the book is called A Journey to India Modern. And through this, I realized, everyone thinks of fashion as color, embroidery. Embroidery is a recent phenomenon. How many of your grandmothers wore embroidery? But it is actually, for me, the way Indians have draped fabric that is unique in the world. From the simple, even the sari is different from Bengal to Gujarat to Kur. We wore dhotis, lungis, safas. It's all just kapra that we wrap in different ways. And that's been forgotten. And so we started getting pattern makers from Italy. He said, I want to make a dhoti, but it's on a zipper. Because today in your life you can't wear it, a lot of women probably love saris, to run, jump, take an auto, come here, run around the festival. Maybe it's not that practical if you're not used to wearing it. That's where I said we must do the structured drape so that these simple things can be done. And we'll show a little video when we're doing the tour of how, again, we can go back into mix and match and full shapes that tomorrow you can wear next year a dhoti sari, which is on a zipper with a jacket. Cool. You can wear, multiple variations because you can take a piece of fabric and wrap it on a body and it will speak to you in a million different ways. The possibilities are infinite. It's just what you want to capture. So the book was about that. It was about documentation and really going through it made me remember so many things that we did because we had the stillness of a pandemic. And now I'm steering the studio back to a lot of those things. Because either some of them were ahead of their time or, for every designer, wedding is just much more lucrative. So, because that one garment sells at 100x of what a ready-to-wear t-shirt sells at. But for that ready-to-wear to make, you need to sell thousands of pieces in terms of volume. So it's even an understanding of business that will enable this. Many years back, I go to Maheshwar, where Sally Holker was reviving the Maheshwari sari. And she said, we become a disarticulated economy. Why? Because the women who are weaving the saris now want to wear Ramal polyester. They say it's shiny, it looks like silk, I don't have to iron it. So they weren't really engaged anymore. They were doing it as a livelihood. So to push ourselves back into making things feasible, and the best countries and companies use craftsmen and artisans who it's part of their life. If you live a life, then you know how to make it better. If you cook, you know what to make it with less oil. Because it's not, these are not intellectual things, these are things that are the hand and smell and your senses. So this book actually was researched by a woman called Alia Rana, who's a fantastic writer, who actually should have been the author, the imposter. But anyway, she basically talked to every Karigar's wedding. She came on shoots, and she really kind of captured the essence of what the studio is trying to do. That's all it is, the journey to India model. And I hope soon you will all be able to wear, like we started a menswear line called Tasra. We do very nice kurtas for 2,500 rupees. And we want to start that for women. Because fashion is not some purview for the super rich. It's okay for very high craft and the couture. It has a meaning and an influence if it can percolate out to the streets, which a lot of people will do it anyway. So.
Thank you so much, sir. We're going to open the floor for a quick round of questions and answers.
Please identify yourself and your publication.
Can I?
Yeah.
Hi, Tarun. This is Seema Dhanna from Red Report Lifestyle magazine. Tarun, how much time did it take you to conceptualize the idea and which take the form of the book?
And which?
Which take the shape of the book, final book?
You know, we had a couple of meetings and we were saying, now how do you structure this? It was not really meant to be a full chronology, so I've taken what I thought were seminal moments. In every studio, in every company, you work, and suddenly something gives you an upwind, you know. Or there's a breakthrough of an idea, or you can do a sleeve better and that changes. Or in my case, when I decided to show in Milan, I had to think of Indian craft in a contemporary way. I got social varieties inside, they were interested. So there were these significant themes. So I said, okay, put Milan, that for me was the birth of Indian model. How's chicken curry not just a shalwar kameez and a sari? And how do I put on a short skirt or a slip dress that the Italians and the Japanese can wear and that did really well? Similarly, the printing, or when I want to go to the Kumbh to see how the sadhu straight fabric, and it's mind-boggling. Everyone, even women who come there in saffron, I mean, it was wild. Or you drive through Kutch. So there are times, and with embroideries, we've learned they make it very heavy, people wanted it. You know, people look at Bollywood and they want to emulate it, but you can't feel it. Luxury is not about what label it is. It's how it feels on your skin. That's the beginning of luxury. I mean, if you don't have that, it's not luxury. If you're uncomfortable, you can't move your breathing, forget it. So all these things happen, we learn, and then collectively sometimes there's a push up. So we just decided to structure it along these things. And it ends with an essay on how the pandemic changed the way we saw our role and what it was. Because it's much bigger than me or people of the fashion industry, thousands of craftspeople, you know, so many things are dependent on it. And we've learned so much, so unless you put it back in, that's the beginning of progress for me.
Yeah, you ask.
हेलो सर।
Hi.
मैं तस्नीम खान हूँ राजस्थान पत्रिका से। जब मैड इन हेवन का सेकंड पार्ट आया था, आपने कहा था कि हर एक डिजाइन के पीछे एक सोच होती है। वो सोच निर्माताओं ने जो है वहाँ कैरी नहीं की थी। तो स्टाइल के पीछे क्या सोच होती है, आप बताइए।
So there are many ways to be, you know, everyone should have their own style, and a studio as a collective have its own style. Today, you know, I think in my mother's generation, when I see the photos, they all, no one went to big hairdressers, they wore saris, but they had individual style. Today it's become much more generic because people are looking at hundreds of things and trying to be that. As opposed to let it come from the self. I'm not sure what your question was in terms of made in heaven.
मैड इन हेवन से मैं जो आपने कहा था कि आपने जो डिजाइन किया है उसके साथ ठीक नहीं किया निर्माताओं ने जैसा आपने सोचा था।
No, so जब हमने सब कुछ अपने नाम से कपड़े बनाकर उनको दिए थे, they didn't pay for it. The idea was that, you know, they should give credit to the designer in each episode, and that didn't happen. So I pulled it out so that all the designers in the subsequent episodes would make sure they got credit for what they did. That's
celebrating.